Are we back? We're live. All right, we're back in. I think it's Tolu. Yeah, I'm saying something now because we were getting all the technical stuff going on, but now I'm here. So there's a little bit of preview because it gets people coming in. It also sends out the notifications. And if you are one of the first people in, it's pretty boring just sitting there watching a screen. So I don't like to make it too boring for people. So if you have any questions, if you're coming into the chat, send in a question. I'd love to answer it related to being a father, parenting, whatever I can do to help out. Tolu, good to see you. Glad that you're in here. Says that you're a fan. Well, I am a fan of yours. Thank you for coming in. Kalani, good to see you. How can I manage my work and home life? So I just recently did a video on work-life harmony, and everybody, I have a course on this. Actually, within our membership, we have a course called Finding Work-Life Harmony that you can access if you're a member. And work-life harmony is different for everybody. So I give tools and tips and suggestions on how to go about evaluating your own work-life harmony and what that means for you. And a lot of it has to do with auditing your existing situation, looking at what's important to you, managing your time, and then doing things accordingly. So there's not specific answers of like, hey, you need to spend 2 minutes doing this and 3 minutes doing that, or hours or whatever. But the gist of it is that you have to prioritize what is important to you and evaluate that and spend that time doing it. And then also, not feeling guilty for it. So, if you are someone who really enjoys work, like I do, then that's an important thing. And, it's part of your life. It's what brings you enjoyment or such. Now, at the same time, if you have a family, you have to be able to manage that time and also know that your family deserves some time with you. So you have to figure out what works for you. Now, if there are specific issues that you're having, as an example, when my children were younger, actually specifically my son, I was working quite a lot. I was involved in this business and I was working quite a lot, and my wife had come to me and had said, hey, listen, can we talk about this and evaluate, is this worth it? And because I was, killing myself at work, not spending as much time as I probably should have. And part of it was me not recognizing how difficult it was for her in doing that. So we had some discussions about it, and I had to modify my time. And it was like, okay, well then maybe I come home, we have dinner, we spend time together, and then after the child goes to sleep, then I do more work. And so I think you just have to figure out what works for you. And I give some very specific tips and tricks about how to analyze that of, auditing your time and making sure that you're not wasting your time. If you're watching Netflix and, you have some other things that are spending some of your time or taking up some of your time, then it's going to be difficult. Dio, will you create a course for fellows who want to be dads? That's interesting. Yes. A lot of the courses relate to how to be a father. Maybe you could expand on what you would want to see there, about what information would you want to see about a course, for people who want to be dads. And what would be important to you. Amberly asks, why do you do what you do with Dad University? Well, a couple things. If you go back and you look at some of the history of like why I started this, it was originally, helping myself. I was struggling. We had our son, and I was, stressed out, didn't know what to do. Just having a lot of issues and yelling a lot, and not really understanding how to communicate with my son, let alone my wife. And so I just knew I had work to do, and not only just for them, but also for myself. And so I started a group locally here and started a discussion group, and then that expanded to a podcast, and I started taking classes on parenting, and then got certifications to teach classes, and I just kept going and learning and expanding on that, and then eventually started Dad University with this idea that I could help other people who are going through the things that I went through. A lot of the philosophies and teachings come from, renowned psychologists and positive parenting and things like that. But I also have my own spin on it, and bringing in, some of the awareness and the mindfulness that I practice, and I've increased my patience, I've improved gratitude, I've improved my communication skills. And so through doing all of these things, I become a better parent, a better husband. And so my purpose is to help others be able to do the same. So if that makes sense, hopefully that answers the question. Kalani, tips on how to stop co-sleeping. Well, we never did co-sleeping, so I'm not sure I can provide you an expert advice on that. Let's see. And if you're talking, co-sleeping, meaning your child, I don't know how, maybe you can write in how old your child is, and what are the difficulties of it. But, you're going to have to go in stages, and maybe initially it's, you just put your child back and say, hey, they're going to stay in their room for 15 minutes, and then they're going to stay in their room for 30 minutes, and then they're going to stay in the room for an hour. 6 months old. If they're 6 months old, you should be able to just put them back there and train them that way. They're probably not walking out of the crib yet. So you should be able to put them in there, and I don't know. We didn't have to deal with that, but or you take co-sleeping all the way until a certain level, and then the child decides to go back. But yeah, I would just say you put the child back or in their own, and they're probably going to cry, and then you can console them, and there's different styles of getting your baby to sleep too, that some people agree with and some people don't. So I'm not advocating one specific way on how to do that. We did certain things with our children. I read and listened to audios and watched videos of things about how to get your baby to sleep. And there was all kinds of different, there was the Ferber method, there's, ignoring your child, there's going and picking up your child. There's all kinds of things. And it just, there are some studies and there is research backing kind of many different styles. So, I think it's what's comfortable for you, what you feel is best for your child and your family, and do it that way. But yeah, don't do it now before it's too late. Dio, this is about a course for fellows who want to be dads. How to prepare, what do I need in order to be the best beforehand? Maybe the baby thinks it over, physical homework or online that needs to be completed. Yeah, I think, so maybe I see what you're saying, a preparing for baby course. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a need of, all of the preparation leading up to it. And you're right. I interpreted that differently. I interpreted like somebody who wants to be a dad is different in my brain. I was thinking it differently than somebody who is going to be a dad, meaning you're pregnant, it's on the way, you're preparing, and you're getting ready. I'd be curious. I mean, you wrote that, so obviously there are people out there. I'd be curious at how many people who are not pregnant or do not have a baby on the way would be interested in a course. Part of what I do too is I'm just giving you insight of maximizing the time and effort of based on what people, want and need. I only have so much time, and which is partly what I would ask is like, if you are interested, sign up for the membership. That helps us. That provides us more resources to be able to make more courses and more videos and do these kinds of things. So you go to daduniversity.com/support. We've got links there to become a member, or if you just wanted to donate, that's cool too. But all of those things give us more resources to be able, it all goes back into, it all goes back into equipment, rentals, people, everything. So, all of that is invested back into the business. It is, while it's not a nonprofit, it can be considered that because anything that is made goes back into the business. So, yeah. So Dio, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. That's not what I mean. I'm not a father yet. Yeah. No. I'd be curious to see how many dads out there, or how many people out there would want to be a dad but are not, don't have one on the way. But I think that could be covered in a pregnancy or, how to prepare course, which might just be relevant to that. So, yes, we have been looking at that sort of most of the courses now deal with, well, there's a relationship course, there's work-life harmony, but it deals with actual parenting in the sense that your child is 2.5, 3, they're able to communicate and the interactions with that child. So we are working to try to get some courses that have to do with pregnancy as well as sort of the early birth of, the birth of the child and the early days of the child. It's just a matter of time and being able to do that. So when people support, that helps. If you are just joining us, let me know where you're from. Throw in a question into the chat. I'd love to kind of hear, what questions you have. And what else is going on? What is today? I think we're on a Thursday. Is today a Thursday? I don't know. They all mesh together. See, that's, my own work-life balance struggles. I've got something to do right, within the next probably or about an hour and a half. And then I have another thing, 2 hours from now. And then I have another thing 4 hours from now. And it's just all keeping busy. And hopefully I get some sleep tonight. So, but yeah, if you've got, the questions, if there's any other questions coming through, let me see. We've got a couple people here. I like those new scrolls coming through, Luke. It's we've got some new online graphics, where we test all this stuff all the time to try to improve, improve everything. That's Luke on the 1s and 2s doing all that. I appreciate that. And maybe we run one of our commercials, or what do you think? Commercial break. When I found out we were going to have a baby, I was so excited. I was also full of anxiety and fear because I knew nothing about children or being a father. So I began learning. I took parenting classes, did research, got certifications, and most importantly, experienced mistakes that I learned from. And while there was a lot of information and communities for moms, there wasn't many resources for dads. And so I decided to take action and began building Dad University. Dad University is a one-of-a-kind educational platform for dads to help you achieve your full potential as a father. We help you go from overwhelmed and confused to calm and confident father with our courses or videos, live broadcasts, support forum, and more. When you become a member, you get unlimited access to everything. The pricing for our monthly membership is pay what feels good. Education, the community, the tools that you will get here are priceless. But we also understand that everyone values them differently. And as such, we give you the choice of what you want to pay. How much is peace of mind worth to you? Click on Become a Member and get started today. So, yeah, sometimes if we need to go run and get something, then it's easy to take a break. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. that was just a little explanation of why we do what we do, and a little bit about Dad University. If you have not, I forget what the stats are. It's something like 20-something% of people who watch the videos are subscribed, and we need to get that number up. So if you are not a subscriber to the channel, that's something that you could do too. You could just subscribe to the channel, and that really helps us also. So if you're not making a donation or becoming a member, at least a subscription, you just got to hit that button. That's the only thing that it requires, and that helps us out also. So let's see. I'm wondering what else. If people don't, hey, it sounds like people don't have any questions. People are coming online and they've got all the answers. So wondering if one of the topics that I can talk about. Let's see. A popular topic. You guys, I often will talk about empathy. It's a popular topic here on this channel. If you're not familiar with it, it's putting yourself in the other person's shoes or the other person's place so that you can look at something from their perspective. I had a story just recently. My daughter is 12, my son is 14, and I have empathetic situations all the time where I need to put myself in the position of a 12 or 14-year-old. And sometimes, for us fathers, like when your child's 4, 5, 7, whatever, it's hard to do that. It's hard to put yourself in their place sometimes. Now, the cool thing about empathy is that you don't have to agree with it. And in some instances, you don't even have to understand it. But you're trying to understand it from their perspective. And so, if my kids are telling me something that is of a concern of theirs, I don't want to discount it and say, oh, that's not a big deal, or you don't need to worry about that, or you know what, just don't pay attention to that. I mean, sometimes that might be the advice, but most of the time it is a big deal to them. So how do you respond? And instead you say, you know what, I can see that this is a big deal for you. I'm sorry that you're going through that. And that's what empathy is. I don't have to agree or, even so much, like, if that was happening to me, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it's happening to them. It's a concern of theirs. They're not sure how to handle something. I try not to give advice unless asked. Maybe on some of these videos I do, but I'm talking about at home. So, so sometimes being empathetic can be hard, and especially for our partners. So Aaron, good to see you. We tend to worry and want to know basic things that you experience that are normal but could trigger anxiety in us. Yeah, no, I get it. The things that trigger anxiety. So anxiety, if you think about it, it's worrying about the future. And the way sometimes that you can reduce that anxiety, there's a couple techniques to do that. But one is, simply somebody will just say, don't worry about the future, live in the present moment. Sometimes that's hard. You worry about your child. So I think information and knowledge and learning as you're doing and watching these videos helps. And so, I think the biggest, or one of the biggest things with having children is to be flexible and to know that nothing is likely going to go or be exactly how you think it will be. And so you can have people tell you this, you can have people show it to you, you can read about it. But if you have that mindset saying, hey, this is going to be a little bit of a roller coaster. I may not get great sleep. I might feel tired sometimes. I may not get along with my spouse in short spats. I may not, like what my child is doing. But, you look at the big picture of like what it is that you want with your life. It's the North Star. That's what my wife and I call it. And, you're making sure that your decisions are toward your North Star. And so sometimes, and for some people, that is religion or a higher power or something. But, if looking at like what is your North Star for your family, and you want to have a healthy child and you want to have good communication and you want to have a good relationship, then, you think about all the things that you can do to do that. Reducing anxiety probably just comes with the practice of all of that. Some people have the anxiety of literally like holding the child, but you know what? You hold the child a couple of times and you're an expert, or how am I going to feed the child or know what to do when they're crying? It's like, well, you do it a couple of times and you learn, and eventually like you're an expert at it. Those kinds of things, as you deal with the child and the baby, I'm honestly going to say that like those were some of the easier things. The difficulty had to go through. And that's a lot of what my channel is and of what I try to talk about. So, little techniques to like deal with your child, that's fine. But to me, a lot of the more difficult and longer term things are the things that I struggled with. It is the anxieties and the patience and the gratitude and the communication. And so those come with practice. It's like building a muscle or going to the gym or doing something. You go to the gym a couple of times, you're not like, oh, I'm in great shape. It takes a long time, and then it's consistent. You got to keep going. And I feel like it's like that with parenting. It's something where, you got to keep doing it. You got to keep being involved. You got to keep evolving, keep learning. And, there are some things related to my children and myself that I still may have anxiety about. But eventually you have, less anxiety for a less amount of time. And I think you're going to be okay. I know you will be. Let me see. Hey. Oh, Robbie, thank you. So Ian, this is a great question. I have a 6-month-old daughter. How do you recommend dealing with the stress or the fear of the future? Well, this kind of goes along with the anxiety question, and there's a couple things I did, I can tell you. So you can take this for what you want. But I exercise, I eat well, I get plenty of sleep, I meditate. And then I work on these things that I have difficulty with. So all of those things are not going to make things perfect. But I can tell you that, as an example, like let's say anger. I still get angry. The difference is that the length of time in which I'm angry has been drastically reduced. And I think that's a result of practice. It's a result of using techniques, whether it's breathing, meditation, or I can go do some exercise. I can give you an example. In fact, this hits home right away. So my wife and I had a discussion last night. And we were talking, and both of us kind of left the discussion and like a little bit it was not like we didn't solve anything. We were talking about something, and in fact, I think both of us felt worse after than we did when we started. And I had to take the kids somewhere. I had to take them and drop the kids off, came back, and it was probably like 20-30 minutes, something like that. And I was just thinking about it, and I thought to myself, I really don't want to have a bad night. This is at night. I don't want to have like tension. I don't want, what we were discussing was like big issue, and it could have been solved. And so I would say it wasn't a big issue. It could have been solved. It was a smaller issue. And so we were having this discussion, but like neither of us felt good afterwards. And so I came to her and I said, I'm just curious, because this is my learnings, and she had just said something like this to me the other day. And I said, what could I have done differently, and or we could have done differently to have a different outcome in that conversation? And what would have been the outcome that you wanted or that we would have had for that conversation? And just immediately, like, I felt better. It took then a couple of things. We're talking back and forth. Everything's fine. Problem solved. Wonderful. Have the rest of the night in good mood. Everybody's in a good mood. Now, in my previous life, let's say years ago, when the kids were little, I would have gotten upset, stormed off, probably gone to sleep upset, gone to work the next day. We wouldn't have talked, and then I would have gone into work and done whatever. And so part of it is just learning these skills, and then also just kind of being done with it, and not tolerating that. And so I think that goes along with the children too, where you get upset at the child because the child's doing something. Well, you have control over those feelings. And so when you start to master that, if you will, it's not that you don't have those feelings anymore. Fears, anxieties, all of that. But you start, you learn to talk to yourself, you learn to deal with these issues, and they go away much quicker. And so I think that it's a long story to a short question. But dealing with the stress of the future, I think that's kind of what you do. You anticipate things, you learn new skills, you watch these videos, you participate in the chats, you do all of this. And I think that fear of the future doesn't become as scary because you're not as tied to the outcome. You kind of can enjoy the process a little bit more. And I think when you're not tied to the outcome as much, there's a lot less stress and a lot less fear. So I hope that helps. I'm rambling. Yeah, so Robbie, any tips on dealing with a 2-year-old on being patient with them? I feel this is the most it's tested me and my girlfriend. Just from tantrums, it's been difficult going out to dinner with her. So here's what I will say, Robbie. You might not like this. You can't go to a restaurant and expect that a 2-year-old is going to behave. I did it. Everybody does it. A 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old is not designed to sit through a meal, an hour, half hour, whatever. It's not easy to do. And I can tell you, as a result of that, like, we had difficulties. We ended up not going out to eat with our child. Or we went to a place where it was fine that, the child could be loud, or the child could, if they happen to take something and throw it, it's not the biggest deal in the world. But don't take that child to a restaurant that you're stressing about. And it's not even so much like when they're that age that, like, if you just keep doing it, they're used to it. That it doesn't work like that when they're 2 and 3 years old. Their brains are developing, and they don't know how to regulate those emotions. So tantrums, totally different thing of like dealing with tantrums. But like the idea of going out to eat, just order in or go to some restaurant. If you really like going out, go to some restaurant where it's not going to matter. I think having the expectation that a 2-year-old is going to sit through a meal and not have difficulty it's just not realistic. People can argue all they want, but that's the reality. Is like a 2, 3, 4-year-old, they get upset, they throw tantrums, they don't know how to regulate their emotions, their brain just flips, and that's what they're learning. That's what you learn at that age. And so you end up getting really upset. Sometimes it might feel embarrassing, or whatever you're dealing with, and it's like, is that really worth it? Order in, have a picnic, make it fun, eat in a different room, sit on the floor, make a fort. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you could do that it could probably make it a more enjoyable experience for the child than going out to a restaurant because it's something that you enjoy. Now, as they get a little bit older, that might be something that you can share with them and enjoy. But your question was about patience. So the way that you become more patient, a couple of things. Number one for me was to stop taking things personally. Your 2-year-old is not out to get you. They are not trying to make your life miserable. They're not trying to do anything except just like figure out how this world works. They're not trying to embarrass you. They're not trying to even, in many cases, defy you. They really don't know what's going on. They've been on this earth for 2 years, and their brain's only been working for a short amount of time processing all of this stuff. So you have to separate yourself from the idea that like this child is doing this to you, or that they're back talking, or that they are disrespecting you, or like any of that. That's not the case. So take that out of the equation. And then once you take that out of the equation, I think you have to have some empathy. And empathy is putting yourself in the place of the child. You know, if you were a 2 or 3 year old, you just came into this world and your parents brought you into this restaurant, which has, you know, all kinds of amazing things, or brings you into a store, or brings you, and you've got lollipops, ice cream, you know, cookies, like your brain's on overload. It's hard to expect that a child who's 2, 3, 4 years old can process all of this and understands how to deal with their emotions. Heck, most adults don't know how to process their emotions. You know, we're talking questions here about fear and anxiety and all of that, and we're adults and we have trouble with our emotions. Of course, a child who is 4, 5, 6 and under is going to have problems with it. They've never been taught how to do that. And if you don't have control over your patience and your emotions and all that, how do you expect your child to do that? So another thing is, think of your child in those moments. The patience. How do you want your child to react to those moments? So when you're in one of those situations, and trust me, I've been there, done it all that, I'm a recovering yeller. When your child is in that situation and throwing a tantrum, how do you want them to act? Now, do you think if you're throwing the tantrum by getting upset and angry that teaches them anything? It doesn't. It teaches them how to get upset when somebody else is upset, and you're teaching them that their emotions affect you in that way. So another tip, their stuff's not going to affect you. You are emotionally bulletproof. Think of yourself having a bulletproof or emotional proof vest on, and your child could scream, yell, whatever it is, and you just say namaste. You are calm. It's not going to affect you. I actually used to say the words, "You will not break my serenity." I used to say that to myself. I learned that in a book that I read. I said, "You will not break my serenity." And it worked a lot, especially when my children were fighting, and I would just say, take a deep breath, count to 10. Those are other tips. And I said, "You are not going to break my serenity." So don't take it personally. Learn to meditate. That's another one. And those should help, hopefully. Ian, how do you snap yourself out of that anger mind frame? So I do believe it is a muscle. You know, I mean, there are certain situations, obviously, where we have certain chemicals in our brain and people have much more difficulty controlling those emotions. I have a couple videos on anger management, and both for the child and for yourself. You just do a YouTube search or look on the channel. Couple of things with anger. Most of the time, anger is somewhat of a secondary emotion. In other words, the reason that we are showing or feeling that anger, there's actually an underlying emotion there. And that could be the fear of failure, not feeling good enough, embarrassment, shame. Like there's other stuff going on. And so I'll give you an example and see if this resonates with when your child is misbehaving. And let's say it's in the public and they are misbehaving in some way, acting out, whatever. I know for me, I was embarrassed. I would think that other people are looking at me and saying, wow, this guy's not a good parent. Look at his child. So I had shame. I had embarrassment. I didn't feel like I was a good enough father because I'm not able to teach my child how to act in this certain way. So as a result of that, we then get angry. So what we're actually angry at is kind of like angry at ourselves. We'll put it on our children and be like, stop doing that. You're making me angry or you're getting me upset. And we end up putting our emotion that we're feeling, our reactions, and we're blaming it on our child. Bad, not good. And I've got plenty of videos on that too, is that we have to take responsibility for our emotions. So the way that I would often get out of that anger feeling is do some of the things that, I had just mentioned before about, looking at it from the child's perspective, because that's a lot of times that's the anger. The other is offering yourself some self-compassion. It's a big one. I made some videos on that too. And what you realize is that parenting is not easy. And, you got to give yourself a little bit of a break in saying, and, talk to yourself and you're like, okay, this is a difficult situation that I'm in right now. My child is acting up. I'm feeling a little bit embarrassed at this restaurant. I don't know what to do. I haven't learned the skills yet to do this. And like you can actually talk to, even if it's just an internal dialogue, or you talk to your spouse or partner, but you have this internal dialogue of actually like giving yourself a break. Like, okay, this is kind of hard. Like, this is a tough situation to be in. That alone and that recognition can help you. The other thing to do, I count to 10. And especially when you start feeling yourself coming with that anger. And so I used to, in looking back, I used to get angry a lot more, and my kids will even say so. And part of that was just the frustration of not knowing what to do. Or secondarily, I felt stressed because I had some financial stress at work, and I'm coming home and I just wanted it quiet, and the kids are running all over the place. And it's like, you feel like you're sort of out of control. So I think, those are those techniques. I do think that some of the courses would help you. I mean, I'm plugging the membership, but, and we have the membership that you can pay what feels good. But, things like the work-life harmony, things like the communication, the empathy, all of those, we have various courses that talk about all of those types of things. I think that they would be very helpful for those kinds of situations. You can go to daduniversity.com/support, become a member, and that'll help. I do think those kinds of courses would be very, very valuable, and it's very inexpensive to do that. So hopefully that helps. Greg, good to see you. Let me see. Greg says, I have to be at work at 6 a.m. pretty much every day of the week. My wife gets stressed trying to get the kids out of the house for school. They won't eat in a timely manner. How can I help her better? 9-year-old and 3-year-old. So by the time the child is the 9-year-old, they need to be doing a lot of these things themselves. I have a video, if you haven't seen it, called, I don't know if it's exactly called like, getting, morning routine, and also like, getting your kids off to school. Couple easy tips. Prepare as much as you can the night before. Clothes, homework backpacks, the food, lunches for the next day, as well as even the breakfast. All of the things that you can do to prepare for the night before. The other, start earlier. It's another one. The other is have a checklist and have the children participate in that checklist. What you want to do, so I can give you an example now. My children are 12 and 14, so they're a little bit older. But for a long time, we, especially when they were first going to school, we had charts. Literally, 6 a.m. wake up, 6:30 do this, 7:30, and before they were even able to read, they saw the pictures, and they would take a little marker. I laminated these things, and they would cross them off as they went. And that helped them get into a routine, and how we establish that routine is knowing, all right, we have to leave by 8 o'clock. We have to leave with us. So the way that you help her is probably by prepping the night before. I mean, if you're not there and you have to leave, so there's not much you can do. But I think what you do is you have the routine in place. Like I said, have the schedule printed out, put it in the kids' room, put it in the bathroom, put it in the kitchen, wherever, all the different places. And like I said, I laminated them so we could scratch them off. Put little boxes. I have an example, I think. There's a download on that morning routine. I think there's a download where you can actually download the schedule, sample schedule. And those things help. You get the night before. And so now in the mornings, granted, now it's been for a couple of years, I barely have to even say anything to my children. If anything, it was funny. My daughter this morning was like, Dad, come on, we got to go. And that's simply just because we've hounded those routines in, and so they know, eventually they do that. So your 9-year-old is now at a point where they should be kind of policing themselves, knowing, okay, it's 6:30, I need to be getting this done. Now it's 7, I need to be getting this done. Now your 3-year-old, going to be a little bit more difficult, but you put them on that track, and you give yourself a little bit of extra time, and you prep as much as you can the night before. That's what I would say. And get up a little bit earlier. Make the target date. here's the thing too. If you're stressing about getting off to school in a timely manner, it's funny, I always watched the children coming to school late. And it's never the children's fault. I mean, it's sometimes maybe it is, like we lose something or whatever. But you see the parents, and they are routinely late all the time. That's just their MO. That's how they operate. So, sometimes you can't force that if somebody is just not a timely person, but you can try to support them the best you can. The other thing I would do, and this is a big one, ask her how you can support her. Say, hey, listen, I know it's tough. I'm off to work. What are some things that I could do to help you better manage the situation? And maybe it is in the morning, you get the cereals ready and you get their, at least for the 3-year-old, maybe there's some clothes but also, I would also have getting ready the night before also means that the children are involved in that process. Your 9-year-old, if they're having trouble, they should lay out their clothes the night before, get their backpack ready the night before, get their lunch together the night before. Like, all of those things are easily acceptable for a 9-year-old to be doing. So, and the 3-year-old, they can start, they can help you say, hey, what are we going to have for lunch tomorrow? What are we going to, assuming they have a routine like that, if they're doing anything. All right. What else? I just got a couple minutes here. I didn't realize how the time flies when you're having fun. Silas, I just discovered that my wife is pregnant. What are the first things that I can do? Remain calm. You're welcome for the great advice. Here's the thing. Well, the good news is that you have time. There's nothing too much to worry about. I think a lot of time the initial stuff is relating to supporting her. She's the one who's going to be going through physical, emotional, hormonal things. And I've got some videos, if you look through the channel, some of the most popular videos are like tips on pregnancy and things like that. I think most of it is supporting her. And you also ask her too, what are some ways that I can support you at this time? Because in the beginning, especially like with pregnancy, she's the one dealing with it all. Like, it's really not that much for you. You don't have to deal with the stuff that she has to deal with. So I think it's best to kind of approach it in that way and say, hey, be empathetic, look at it from her perspective. She's got something growing inside of her. Her hormones are changing. She's physically not probably going to feel well in first, second trimester. So just, be there and support her. Those are the kinds of things I could do. You can start learning, but I mean, some of it, like, I think you can overlearn too. I don't think you need to be like studying every day about, the child and how you're going to parent and everything. I mean, I deal with a lot of different people, and they come to me when they have a newborn or even pregnancy. That's not necessarily the time you have to worry about parenting, how to communicate with your child or how to, so you kind of take it in stages. And I think at this stage, a lot of it is just supporting her. What do you think? Any last questions? Some great questions today. Again, if you would love to support the channel, like we would love you to, daduniversity.com/support. That has links to our membership, which you get all of our courses, the videos, discussion groups. We do a lot of stuff with that. And then also, if you want to just donate, that's cool too. I think it's something you might as well get something out of it, become a member, and that's awesome. But some people just want to donate. Love that. That helps us a lot. We be able to do these videos, the camera equipment, my assistant, us, if you're not familiar with some of my other videos, it's like scripting, editing, like these are hours and hours of investment just for one video. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And so, the more support that we get, the more that we're able to do these videos, the more time we can dedicate to this, and the more effort. So I appreciate everybody. Also, to subscribe. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Oh, I like that graphic. Keep the channel alive. That's a good one. That's Luke, who's behind the scenes, adding all the stuff to the videos and helping us with the editing and everything else. I appreciate that. So I'm sure I'll be back very soon. It looks like we're going to be doing a lot of these. So hopefully it's helpful. And if you have questions, throw them in the chat. I can always respond after this happens. We love comments. We love chats. So with that, as always, we will see you next time. Take care, everyone.
When I found out we were going to have a baby, I was so excited. I was also full of anxiety and fear because I knew nothing about children or being a father. So I began learning. I took parenting classes, did research, got certifications, and most importantly, experienced mistakes that I learned from. And while there was a lot of information and communities for moms, there wasn't many resources for dads. And so I decided to take action and began building Dad University. Dad University is a one-of-a-kind educational platform for dads to help you achieve your full potential as a father. We help you go from overwhelmed and confused to calm and confident father with our courses, our videos, live broadcasts, support forum, and more. When you become a member, you get unlimited access to everything. The pricing for our monthly membership is pay what feels good. Education, the community, the tools that you will get here are priceless. But we also understand that everyone values them differently. And as such, we give you the choice of what you want to pay. How much is peace of mind worth to you? Click on Become a Member and get started today.